Hi, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 4 of My Words, Our Journey, What If? Today, we begin with Chapter 8. Friday morning, Mitch decided he should probably plan on driving himself to work after the events of the night before. But as he opened the garage door, he saw Aaron and Julie kissing on their front porch. Before Mitch could turn away, Aaron waved and gestured he'd be right over. You could have blown on Mitch, and he'd have probably fallen over. His head was already pounding, and this just made it worse. What was going on? Was Aaron really playing some kind of game with him to test his loyalty? And if so, for what reason? He just wasn't accustomed to things like this in his life. Complications? He just wanted him to stop. As Mitch reached for his briefcase, he decided he would play along and find out what his friend had on his mind today. The two friends enjoyed listening to Don Imus in the morning. The only problem, they both agreed, was too many commercials. During one of these commercials, Mitch decided to break the silence that had filled the car to this point. "Can we talk about your plan?" he asked. This seems to catch Aaron by surprise. "I thought it was a dead issue," Aaron stated with no emotion. "I thought it through, and you're right. Friends need to be there for each other. And besides, the plan you came up with, all by yourself, probably will need my help." He hoped this would break the ice a bit. Aaron smiled and said, "Let's stop somewhere and have coffee." And for the first time that Mitch could remember, they would be late for work. As Aaron finished his thoughts, Mitch was stunned. For the past 30 minutes, a plan to deceive had been laid before him. And the scary part for Mitch was that Aaron seemed calm, cool, and collected. "I know this is a lot for you to take in. I know there's a lot on the line," Mitch heard Aaron say. "So please take some time and let me know your thoughts. Maybe we can go over it on the ride home this afternoon," Aaron added. The rest of the day, Mitch could do nothing except think about what he had heard that morning. Concentrating on work? Not a chance. Lucky for him, he had just finished a pretty lengthy project and was getting some well-deserved downtime. Other than a few daily reports he did each morning and a couple of spreadsheets he would need to approve after lunch, his day was pretty much his own. He decided to lock his door, turn the lights out, take his phone off the hook so he could go through the whole thing, this whole scheme, one bit by one bit. Try to make some sense in his head. Also, he needed to get rid of this headache before the day was over. Closing his eyes and leaning back in his chair, he tried to remember every detail of Aaron's well thought out plan. Aaron had told him that his behavior over the past several days had been a hoax, including the florist and the kissing on the porch. He needed Julie and everyone around him to believe that he was secure in his marriage for his plan to work. His behavior would be looked at closely once he was gone and play an important role in his comeback. He told Mitch that they would plan a canoe trip down the New River. That's where they would leave signs of a canoeing accident, i.e., overturned canoe, personal belongings in the water. They'd pick a spot where the water could be rough and an accident could actually happen. Next, Aaron would hike to the nearest small town and check into the local motel, paying cash and checking in during the night when the night auditor would pay him very little attention. He would check in under the name of Russell Crawford. There he would hang out for a few days until the search came to an end. Once this happened, he would hide in the woods behind his home for a few days to see how Julie handled her beloved's untimely death. And when he was satisfied, out he would appear along the side of a road and flag down a car to take him to town. He would tell his story of the accident, his losing his way, and his struggle to get back home to his wife. That was Aaron's part of the plan. And as Aaron put it, Mitch had the very easy part. All Aaron wanted Mitch to do was help fake the accident, go back to the car, use the cell phone to call for help, lie to the police and their wives, and keep track of Julie while he was in hiding. Piece of cake, thought Mitch. As Mitch turned on the light in his office, he decided to write down the questions he had regarding this scenario. It should be an interesting ride home, he thought. We may have to take the long way. Mitch looked at the clock on his office wall. It was only 4:30, so he decided to call home and check messages. No messages, only 2 hang-ups. Salespeople, Mitch thought, as he walked out of his office and over to the water cooler to waste a little time before the weekend began. If anyone other than Mitch was riding home with Aaron on this particular Friday afternoon, They would have thought he was drunk. When asked about his rather good mood, Aaron told Mitch, "Soon I'll know for sure where my life is headed." Aaron looked at Mitch and smiled. "I'll either start a family with my loving wife, or I'll be starting over. It's really been eating me up, man. I'm just so ready. I want this, Mitch, and I do need your help. You're the only one I can trust. No matter how crazy this whole thing seems to you, that's how sane it sounds to me." Crazy, huh? But either way, I'll know, right? Aaron finished. Mitch could not tell for sure. It almost sounded like his friend had heard how really truly troubled he sounded just then. There was just a few minutes pause before Mitch responded with, "So I'm hearing this is going down with or without me, but hopefully with me, right?" "Mitch, I spend more time with you than I do anyone else. We both know you will ask me a few questions, try to talk me into talking things out with Julie, and then you'll help me make my plan as good as it can be so neither of us get caught. So let's talk the girls into going shopping in the morning so we can work on a few things." And with that, Aaron turned up Sean Hannity on the radio, and they rode the rest of the way home listening to political news of the day. Talking Bridget and Julie into shopping is like talking a child into liking candy. There really is no effort involved. With the wives gone for the day, the boys decided to take a ride. The two friends had traveled this winding road before, but today had a much different feel. Both men knew the other could sense it as well. Passing through Damascus, Mitch realized it had been a while since he had taken the time to ride the Creeper Trail. What a relaxing way to spend an afternoon. It was a beautiful 17 miles between Abingdon and Damascus along the trail, and it didn't matter what time of the year, Mitch always thought it was a great ride. Finally, Aaron decided to talk. "Mitch, I do appreciate you as a friend, and I want you to know if this goes bad, I'll take full responsibility. I just really need to know where my marriage stands and in what direction it's going." There was a slight pause before Aaron finished with, "I love my wife, and I just want to know that she loves me the same." Mitch felt like this may be his last chance to talk some sense into his friend. "Aaron, have you really thought this through? Can we really pull this off? I mean, you're relying on three key things. First, you have more confidence in my acting ability than I do. Second, you're assuming that if Julie is being unfaithful, she'll run to this other person rather quickly. And third, you're assuming we can show up back on the side of the road in the middle of the woods after a week or so, and there won't be some questions." And with that, Mitch took a breath and gave Aaron a chance to think about what he'd have to say. "Three good points you bring up for discussion, my dear friend," Aaron stated. "So I'll take them in the order they were given. First, I have confidence in you, period. Second, Julie and I could not be more alike in so many ways, and there's no way I would wait if I was seeing someone else, especially under the circumstances. I would need the emotional support, and so will Julie. And third, why would there be any question in my story? There'll be no crime committed. True, some may find it hard to believe for different reasons, but in the end, who could prove anything other than what we say? As far as anyone is concerned, we have no reason to lie." Aaron turned and smiled at Mitch. "It's a rather simple plan, and that's what will make it work. The only time I can see us being vulnerable is when I'm at the hotel. Other than that, if I'm found, I'll claim to be lost, and we'll just abort. So let's find a spot for a canoeing accident, shall we?" Mitch thought Aaron looked pretty pleased with himself, and why not? According to him, this was going to be like a walk in the park. Mitch knew nothing was easy, as it seemed, so he sat back for a little further in his passenger seat and enjoyed the view. They returned onto Route 58 and began traveling towards Whitetop, a favorite drop-off point for bike rental companies. From there, they would take the winding road through the national park down the other side of the mountain and towards the New River. Wonderful trees, spectacular mountains, some beautiful homes, and of course, the curvy road made for a peaceful drive, even under these circumstances. The rest of the day was spent finishing three important tasks: locating an accident site, finalizing the list of items they would need to bring, and finishing off the last of the beer. As the day was nearing its end, and the two partners in crime were heading back, Mitch realized that Aaron could actually be right. The simplicity of the plan, the fact that there was no leaks, and the absence of a crime all could add up to success. At least they were banking on it. This might actually work. Mitch said more to himself out loud than to Aaron. I'm betting my future on it, partner, Aaron whispered in the dark. And with that, the two friends rode home in silence, both going over things in their head. Neither wanted this to go the wrong way, each for different reasons. Each knew they had spent more time together in silence over the past weeks than in their whole friendship. Mitch was deep in his own thoughts when he realized what he didn't want to happen when this was all over. He did not want to hear himself or Aaron say the words, "What if?" On the following Thursday morning, Mitch could not force himself to get in the shower. He had not moved since the alarm had gone off more than a half hour ago. He knew he'd have to get up soon or risk being late. A cloud of doubt had moved over him in the last few days. Until now, he'd been able to blow it away. But this morning, as he lay in his warm bed, cozy bed, in his own home, with a picture of his lovely wife staring back at him from the nightstand, he wondered if it could all be lost in just a few short days. How would Bridget feel about him if she ever learned the truth? Would she understand that he did what he did because he felt it was right to help his best friend? Or would she see him as a fool who took a risk, an unnecessary risk? Mitch knew that if Aaron thought he was having reservations, he would go nuts. Mitch also knew he'd go through with this. He'd work it out in his own head before the ladies left for the weekend. He needed to. He wanted to go into this confident and clear-headed. Once he started his day, Mitch barely had time to think about his worries. Deadlines. He hated deadlines. None more than month-ending reports. The same reports management tried to push up just a little bit each month. It seemed that someone always needed the reports yesterday for a meeting that was in 2 weeks. Mitch tried to explain, you can't run month-ending reports until the month actually ends. This was not the right answer, so Aaron and Mitch had found ways to speed up the process without compromising too much. They had agreed to increase timely delivery of the reports by a little estimating, which would have to take place. The current way of running the reports had been going on for over a year, and no one had ever questioned the figures to the best of Mitch's knowledge. Aaron always went back in a few days later and corrected the data anyways. No harm, no foul. Over time, they'd become pretty good at guesstimating. Mitch stopped in his tracks in the middle of the hallway leading to his office. If there had been a person walking closely behind him, they would most definitely have ran into his backside. Standing there, Mitch pulled his last thought back. What was it? No harm, no foul. It was what he had helped get him through his work ethics regarding the reports, and now this simple phrase was going to help him again. He knew even without the truth coming out, people would be hurt, but hopefully only in the short term. In his mind's eye, Mitch could see everything, and everyone being back to normal in just a few months. No harm, no foul. It was actually the best he had. Chapter 9. Thursday night was pretty uneventful. The boys decided to go out as usual, but it was clear that neither friend's heart was in it. Both seemed distracted by their own thoughts, and unlike most nights, someone else heard the door of Sparky's lock behind them. Mitch wanted to make sure he got plenty of rest while he still could. He felt Aaron had had the same thing on his mind. He decided to call Bridget and see how her day had gone, and if she needed him to stop and pick up anything on her trip home. Aaron decided he should do the same. After stopping for a woman's razor, Q-tips, and 2 bottles of wine, they headed straight home. Mitch knew the next several days were going to be stressful, and he really wanted tonight to be perfect for Bridget. Mitch wanted Bridget to know just how much he loved her before she went away and before the lies began. Aaron, on the other hand, appeared to just be going through the motions. Again, for a brief moment, doubt crept into his head, knowing it was too late to rethink this whole thing. It really was in Mitch and Aaron's best interest just to repeat what he had decided earlier. No harm, no foul. No harm, no foul. He kept repeating that over and over in his head. Mitch rolled over to the sound of the garage door closing. Bridget had said they were leaving early to avoid rush hour traffic. He just hoped they'd at least have a little quality time in the morning, maybe even breakfast. Realizing he was about to start feeling sorry for himself, Mitch got up and made the bed. He decided he really was making too much out of his role in this whole scheme. After all, he was not the one who wouldn't be coming home tonight. With the reports all turned in by 10, Mitch and Aaron both spent the morning trying to look busy at their desks. Aaron had gone online and was looking at new boats, while Mitch too had gone online, looking at possible vacation destinations for Bridget and his getaway. He had started planning. He had narrowed it down to two possibilities: a cruise to Mexico and all its wonder, beaches and nightlife, or a flight to Puerto Rico, where they would be spoiled at a fabulous resort with all its beautiful views and casino. Bridget, he knew, would just be happy to get away, and if they started trying to have a child, it would not matter where they were, would it? The thought brought a smile to his face, because he knew how happy and surprised she would be. Aaron was at his door at exactly 12 noon. Each had built up plenty of personal leave time, and today they both cashed in half a day. Mitch had driven. Aaron thought it'd be a good idea. They both knew Mitch would be a little nervous driving back by himself, and Aaron felt he'd feel more comfortable driving his own car. Mitch could not argue with the logic. Besides, he really did enjoy driving. After picking up takeout at Aaron's favorite diner, the two friends headed into the country. Cruising along, eating Brenda's world-famous hot dogs and drinking A&W root beer, Mitch felt pretty good. Stealing a glance at his passenger every once in a while, he could swear Aaron was falling asleep. How could that be possible? Was he truly that relaxed? Nerves of steel. By the time they reached the site, Mitch just wanted to get started and get home. The two dogs were good the first time, but he was having trouble keeping them down now. It'd probably only get worse, he thought. Aaron was very organized and methodical, which was a good thing because Mitch was still having a hard time focusing, no matter how hard he tried. He watched as Aaron took the canoe off the rack and grabbed a full duffel bag out of the trunk. After a short trip down the trail, both men were fairly confident they were alone. Mitch noticed Aaron was not in any sort of hurry, and he wondered if his friend was reconsidering. With that hope, Mitch purposely slowed his pace, giving Aaron as much time as he could to rethink his strategy. At this point, nothing could make him happier than just throwing back a few beers with his best friend, sitting and laughing about their idea next to the river, and then heading back to town. Maybe catch a movie and a late dinner. What a nice thought. But Aaron marched on, carrying more than his share of the load, and he actually picked up his pace a little bit. Once at the site of the accident, the two men waded out into the water, placed the canoe upside down amongst a cluster of rocks. After a few minutes, Aaron seemed confident the canoe was not going anywhere. He went back and returned with the duffel bag. He placed several items in the water to let them float downstream. Mitch noticed a water bottle, two unopened beers, a map, and a flashlight. After dropping the last item in the water, Aaron turned to Mitch and smiled. He was holding two beers and began walking towards the bank. 20 minutes later, Mitch was walking back to his car. He was not sure if he should have a beer before he headed out, but it was too late for second guessing. Aaron had told him it would take the edge off, which it hadn't been the case. Feeling he was getting close to the vehicle, he stopped and lit a cigarette. Mitch was going over his story again in his head. He would have to drive out of the woods into the main road before he'd be able to get a signal. Then he would call 911 and begin the set of lies. And that's where we'll end episode 4. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you joining me on this journey. Thank you and have a great day.